let me tell you, because we got my man, one of my buddies, Cody L, on this, and we're talking the modern WooCommerce playbook. Safe iteration, scaling. We're going to dig into WooCommerce. We're going to dig into a lot of options. Cody and I have been working on WooCommerce really since the start of WooCommerce, so we've got a lot of stuff to dig into today. So let's get to it. First, who are we? Well, I'm with WebDevStudios. Cody's with his company agency Mode Effect. We're in our 18th year at WebDevStudios. I'm a co-founder and partner, so we've been building enterprise, large, WordPress-focused websites for a long time, including WooCommerce. A lot of work with WooCommerce over the years. So really excited to kind of dig in today, share some of our experiences. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. And of course, Cody, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Brad. So,
Absolutely.
Cody Landefeld, co-founder at ModeEffect, and gosh, I think collectively we've been around maybe 20 years or so. I myself started my agency back 15 years. I'm going to give you way more information than you asked for, but anyhow, we are primarily focused on helping online stores with their development needs and also digital marketing. So we kind of have the full surround of services for online stores and people doing e-commerce. And a big part of that is on WooCommerce. So we're excited to come together and help you all and give some tidbits of advice on the platform.
Absolutely. So, what are we talking about today? Woo! WooCommerce.com. If you're not familiar with it, I'm guessing if you're watching this, you probably are, but we want to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today, and then we'll dive into some data around WooCommerce and kind of get after it. So, first, we'll give a real quick overview of WooCommerce again. We're assuming you kind of have an understanding of what it is. We'll talk a little bit about the numbers and really how big of a platform it is. Modernization without panic. This is going to be a fun one, right? A lot of people are seeing new things out there, new shiny objects around performance and scaling, and what should they be looking at? What should we do if we need to modernize? This is all flip it upside down and start over, or are there better ways to do it? That's what we're going to get into today. Smarter growth for store owners and agencies, and also kind of the business side of it for more for store owners, right? Do you have an in-house team? Do you work with an agency like Cody or myself? Do you have some other setup? Like, let's talk about some ways that work, and what we've seen over our experience too. And of course, at the end, I want to touch on our newest product, ThemeSwitcher Pro, and really kind of dig into some iterative modernization using our product. So I'll do a really quick live demo at the end. If you're not able to stay for the full webinar, that's fine. We have the whole thing is published on YouTube. You can watch it right after the event. So don't feel like if you miss part, it's gone. You can come back and catch it later. So, but let's jump in because we got a lot to cover. So WordPress is a powerhouse. It still is. A lot of people think WordPress is shrinking, and while it's plateaued a lot the last couple of years, it's really holding steady right around 43% of the entire internet. So people say, "Oh, it's down 0.1%." This is of the entire internet. This is a staggering number of websites still running WordPress today. Almost 500 million known sites globally powered by WordPress. Forget all the things behind, paywalls and logins and things that can't even be counted. So now of that, if we break down WooCommerce, so WooCommerce is a plugin for WordPress. It's a plugin that incorporates a lot of advanced functionality for e-commerce. It turns your WordPress website, adds a whole e-commerce store to your website, right? So it is a plugin within WordPress. You have to have WordPress to run WooCommerce. Now, if you just separate that out and look at WooCommerce in terms of how many websites are running WooCommerce, 9% of all websites. So
That's a
approximately
lot.
about 20, it's a staggering number. About 1 in 5 websites, WordPress sites, has WooCommerce running on it. And if you look at just e-commerce as a whole, WooCommerce is about 35% of that. So WooCommerce is a large chunk. It's the top e-commerce, certainly top open source e-commerce platform, and it powers a huge chunk of the internet for good reason, because it's a great platform. It's open source. It's endlessly extensible. You can do anything you want with it, right? Which can be a blessing and a curse, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more. So some big numbers, but I think it helps sets the stage that WooCommerce is a dominant player in the e-commerce space and a dominant player in the open source e-commerce space. So a lot of people are using it, a lot of opportunities for not only if you're a builder, implementer, agency to work with it for your clients, or if you are a owner, a store or website, a good opportunity for look at if you're looking to roll out a store or change your platform. So we're not getting to thank yous just yet, but I'm gonna stop sharing. I don't have a ton of slides. I'd rather you just look at our faces while we talk and maybe do some screen sharing. But let's dive into it. So one of the first things we want to kind of get into, Cody, is And this is something I think if you worked with, really, if you built websites in any capacity for a period of time, this comes up. But specifically, I want to talk about, your e-commerce, WooCommerce platform, which is really modernization, right? So it's very, web and the tech and what people do and designs and everything. It's just the only constant is change, right? It's always
Right.
evolving. So you could have an amazingly beautiful website today. In a year or two now, it could look very dated, right? So, and many times there's a kind of a knee-jerk reaction to that, right? It's like, hey, I got to modernize. We got to do something different. We need to jump over to this platform or that platform or do, and it's almost just like, let's take a breath here. So, Cody, I want to kind of pass this over to you, but like when one of your clients, or even maybe just somebody walks in the door and says, look, we're on WooCommerce, it's just feeling stale. Maybe we need to go to Shopify. Everyone's, we're hearing that buzz. Is it time to jump ship to modernize? What's your reaction to that? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I hear that almost every single day with people that are, maybe either clients that work with us or people that just come through our front door and they're asking for advice on what to do with their platform. And my answer, being sort of a, agnostic e-commerce shop, at least on the front door, is that there are no perfect platforms. It really comes down to the size of your business and your store. I think that it is really tricky when your site's getting built up, when you're first starting out and you get to a certain threshold of sales. That is where it's difficult to sort of get to a certain point and
Mhm.
determine what makes sense as far as a platform. So I think for your simpler stores, you definitely can look at Shopify as getting online. And I think it's, if you have a tech savvy background or if you've tinkered a little bit, you could still get yourself online fairly quick with WooCommerce, because you can even start that journey on WordPress.com. But I think where you really start to determine where there's good parity is once you have sort of your site to a certain level, um, where you have sales, where you actually have a business, then it kind of makes sense to weigh out what features you use inside of the platform. Because and we'll probably get to this later on, but basically there are ways to determine what true parity is as far as platforms. So my answer is just, wherever you are, it takes work to make that platform be
Mhm.
the best match for your online business.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. Like it kind of rings a bell in my head of something I'm talking about with my company of the project management tool we use. And it's like we've used different ones over the years and
Hmm.
none of them are perfect, right? And it's basically
Nope.
like our answer now is, well, this is the least worst out of all of the ones we've used. Which doesn't sound great, but it's like it's to your point of they're as good, they're only one is only as good as you're going to make them and work with them, right? But there
Right.
is never a perfect platform ever, right? Ever. Like, and I mean, you could have endless budgets, endless time. I mean, look at Amazon, right? But they're never done, right? They're always still building and improving and modernizing. So it's
Right.
never done, but it's also kind of thinking that longer term. So like, what is the psychological kind of, I guess the thought or idea when someone's like, I need to modernize, and many times it is that knee jerk. Maybe it's
Hmm.
not, this isn't working for me. Maybe I should try something else. But when you
Hmm.
start to kind of dig in, as I like to say, peel back the onion and really get to what is the challenge, as you and I have talked before, that's when you realize it isn't really the platform specific. It's how they're maybe using the platform, or maybe things they're not using that they could be using, or integrations they're not doing. Can you speak a little bit about that, where it's like kind of getting to the point, the root of what their issues are versus just saying, yeah, let's flip it all upside down and change.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so often I see folks that are, in that DIY situation, right? So you got people that build their website on their own, or they hire a freelancer, or get a small team to help them get online. And that's a good way to start. You want to get yourself set up and be able to start making transactions and see what kind of traffic you can bring to your website. And then after that, once you've hit a certain threshold of sales, then it really helps you kind of determine what's working, what's not. And what I see a lot of times is that there are so many plugins and there are so many themes and things that you can add to your website that becomes a smorgasbord of just bloat, of things that just cause problems with your site speed, especially when people add things to cart and they want to check out. That's typically where you see problems happen because you can hop onto any of these, managed web hosts, which are all, there's so many great ones out there, and you can get a fast site, but where the game changes is when there's something in the cart and you try to check out. That's
Mhm.
typically when it creates some type of a unique browsing experience and you tend to see slowdowns. So that's when you kind of need to take a step back as a store owner and understand, what kind of plugins am I running on my website? What are the things that are causing me to understand, or rather understand, why I'm having problems with speed or why I'm having problems with making a good headway wherever you might be in a competitive space? Why is your site slower than your competitor's site?
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of things to look at, and then just try to understand, what things can you do without? What things can you try to take out of your website to simplify your experience? And it's a journey. There's no. I think a lot of people that are might listen to this, and certainly a lot of people that I meet on a day to day basis, they're always in this predicament where it's, add whatever the popular plugins are, do whatever Google, or sorry, what AI is telling you to do nowadays, to add to your website. It's easy to fall victim into that and not know what the
Right.
best in breed plugins are and what's going to cause your website to run most optimally. So, um, and like I said, there's no easy way to find that out until you're kind of rubber meets the road,
Mhm.
taking transactions, getting traffic, and understanding how your website holds up against that.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on this, the term you use, like the shiny object, right? Like the that is the blessing and the curse of honestly WordPress, but also WooCommerce. Of it is so easy to install a plugin and
Right.
start turn it on and start using it, right? And like you said, many stores start small, and many of these stores have were built by the store owner in some way, right? And so they're trying things, but then when you start to see that success, which we all want for those online stores, that starts to add up, right? Now you have 30 plugins running and you're starting to do some significant sales. That's going to have an impact on, yeah, performance, load times. And performance is such a huge metric, especially in e-commerce, as we all know that, little fractions of a second can lose sales. So performance is always the number one thing we're focused on here, right? So if they're adding all these plugins for us, kind of going back to what is the root cause, or what is the reason why they're doing this, is trying to understand, well, why did you add that plugin? What is it you're trying to, is it just to get, like, make another sale because you think it's going to add another call to action button or something? Is it somehow optimizing your checkout process? It's from our perspective, it's having more intention on what you're doing, and what it's really focused on the goal and working back from there. I always like to align what we do with, like, Batman and his bat belt, right? Like, we got a lot of tools, a lot of things we could use for this, whatever the situation is, but what's the best one for them? What's the best one for you, right? So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you kind of handle those situations too.
Yeah. So obviously, one of the biggest things to focus on is the front end of your web.
Hmm.
Earlier, there's a lot of web hosts that can give you a fast site that's cached. You get there and things load in really quick, but it starts to have some problems once you add things to the cart. Now,
Hmm.
think about your staff, think about your CSRs, think about the people that actually do fulfillment for your site. There gets to a point of growth for an online store that you have so many plugins running on your site and you have so many things in the back end that cause the actual logged in dashboard experience to be just a mess and
Hmm.
super slow. And I hear that so constantly with people that, get to this certain point of growth, and that's sort of a neglected thing, right? So I think going back to the shiny object syndrome, there are so many themes that will allow you to get a website built quickly without code. And we live in a time where, everybody can easily get a website. You can go on a Claude, you can basically tell it to design you a website, and you could probably teach yourself how to put together a theme. But a lot of people will get on there and they'll set up a theme that's got a builder, and it will, set things up across the website, and you're loading in so many things and you're causing so many database queries. And so that has an impact not only on the front end of the website, but also on the back end of the website. So you got to factor in your opportunity cost here and determine, how do you fix that? And that's the challenging thing. Kind of like you said, Brad, think about where you want to be and then kind of take a step back. There's no shame in taking these methods to build your website and doing a DIY process. I think if you've gotten to this point where you're getting sales and you know how to get traffic to your website and you're converting it, whichever way you get there, it's a win.
Mhm.
So don't fault yourself. And it's not a race either. Like, if you find yourself a good partner, you have to grow to a point where you can actually afford to hire a good partner that will help you with your WooCommerce site. And then just come up with a game plan of understanding what it is that it's on your website that's sort of causing you to get slowdowns on the front end, and
Mhm.
what's causing your staff to have all types of trouble on the back end doing fulfillment and using the dashboard overall. So lots of things to think about. Sorry, I probably answered that in the longest way possible.
No, I love it. And I think too is people also lose sight of the what a normal, quote unquote normal online customer, the experience that they expect is a very specific experience when you're buying something online, right? Like we've had to talk clients out of trying to make this unique. Let's do it
Hmm.
different than everybody. I'm like, this isn't the place you want to do things like massively different. Like there is a
Right.
certain expectation when you buy something online. There's a cart, you get your things in the cart, make sure you got the quantities, whatever you need, and then there's a checkout process, right? And you expect certain things to happen in a certain order, generally speaking, right? It's not an area to really experiment with UI and weird UX. It's like you need things to work a certain way, and you don't want to confuse someone when they're getting ready to give you a credit card number, right, or pay
Right.
for something. You need to make it familiar, and I think that's important too. Is don't just start throwing things on there just because you're trying to. It needs to still be a familiar process. You don't want this Frankenstein checkout and they get to the checkout and they don't realize they're in a cart because it's so convoluted with stuff that they've lost the focus of where's the button to actually finish paying for this thing, right? So it's
Yeah.
also not losing, what is it, not losing sight of the forest through the trees or trees, whatever, like you got to still focus on the number one thing you're trying to do is make sales. So whatever you do, get out of their way and make that easy.
Right. The checkout experience is a big thing to focus on because, like you said, adding all that friction and trying to do it uniquely is just isn't the best idea. And I'll say something controversial. I don't think it's controversial, but
Hot
WooCommerce
take
out of the
coming in.
box. Hot take. The out of the box WooCommerce checkout experience is just not great. It's something that is very much sort of a dogged type of thing that a lot of people look at, and they point to Shopify as like, hey, I like that, user experience that's very familiar, because you can get onto any Instagram ad nowadays and you can be on a checkout page on Shopify like that. So there has to be some type of UI and fewer steps in order to get through that. And there's certainly ways to do that with WooCommerce.
And it's a good point because Shopify is kind of the one everyone's comparing WooCommerce to. It's really the second, platform up there from a SaaS perspective. And it's not open source, very different kind of model, but it is a good online store for many people, right? So I think it kind of begs the larger question of like where is the sweet spot for WooCommerce? Like what is this? Is it just selling products? Are there opportunities where digital goods or LMSs or something really outperform on WooCommerce versus trying to set up other services that work with Shopify? Like, and this is really, I'm really asking you, Cody, from your opinion and experience, like, where do you find that sweet spot is? And you're like, this is exactly what WooCommerce just nails, and people love it all day long when they're kind of in this area. Is that a question that's possible to answer? And if it is, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So I'll answer it with just saying, first and foremost, if you're starting a business to sell clothes or t-shirts that have, six sizes and three colors, it probably makes sense to launch it on Shopify. And I'll say that because the complex side of WooCommerce really works well for, when you get into products with a ton of different variations, you have a bunch of add-ons, and you
Mhm.
have sort of complex buying processes or buying journeys. One thing that we see at ModeEffect is a lot of our clients are in using subscriptions on their websites, and so it's been a wonderful tool for their business to be able to use Woo subscriptions and be able to have their custom setups for all their variations and be able to set up their website that's all geared towards that subscription flow. So I'd say subscription based sites, both for products and digital goods, are a great fit for WooCommerce.
Mhm.
I think there's one of our clients is in the HVAC space. So they sell large HVAC systems and have a lot of different things that need to be added on there. And it's a pretty complex uh, buying journey. So
Mhm.
obviously it's not for the faint of heart, but obviously WooCommerce is set up really well to be able to handle that end to end. And not only just the front end experience, but also from a customer service experience where somebody's on the other side, inside of the website, taking phone calls or getting emails and putting orders into the system and matching that up uh, both sides. So I think there's really great parity there. And I'll say another thing. I've also had some conversations with people that run their sites on Shopify, and this is I'm not trying to throw shade at Shopify. Obviously, I work on Shopify sites. We'll help clients with those too. But I've also had conversations with stores that run on Shopify, and for these larger fulfillment instances with all types of different things that they have to do through their website, there's an acknowledgement of the fact that they're only getting really 70 to 80% of what they want out of Shopify. And the great thing about WooCommerce is that you sort of have your own development destiny that you can give to your team and write out some type of a uh, like configuration or whatever capabilities you need on your website. And if you have a good partner, they can build that out for you. And so that's the beauty of a lot of these plugins that are on WooCommerce that run, or we would call them extensions. You can further customize a lot of those if you have a good team that knows how to do that and get exactly what you want on your platform that best matches the way that you do fulfillment or whatever way you run your business from on the administrative side. And that's a great thing, and that's sort of where your limitation would be on Shopify. So I'd say that, that is certainly that revenue range that sort of hits towards maybe you're 10 million and above when you're around there in sales,
Mhm.
because the cost of ownership on Shopify is starting to get very large, with how many apps you got to buy and how many just if you're on Shopify Plus, I think I want to say it's close to 3 grand per month. Somebody's going to fact
It,
check
it,
me
it
on that, of
scales. It
course.
scales quickly with success, which with
Yeah,
success, there's more of an investment you'd expect, but it does start to scale up in price very quickly once
right. You
you
can
start
find a
to hit
good
into the millions,
partner.
and so yeah.
Yeah, you can find a good partner to get your hosting, dialed in and configured and
Mhm.
spend significantly less just at a baseline to run your store. So anyway, more to that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything you said. I think, I like Shopify too. Like, this isn't just a dog on Shopify, but it's right there with WooCommerce. So I think it's always the one
Right.
everyone's really comparing the two, right at the top right now for e-commerce for most, a lot of the stores out there. So, and it is a place I will recommend if someone's like, hey, I got this product idea. And they always, just like you, I'm sure, friends, family, come to us. Can you fix my printer? Can you launch an online
Mhm.
store? Of course, I'm the tech guy. I do it all, right? So, but I'm like, I don't want to really set that up and manage it. So Shopify is a great way to test your idea, right? Hey, you get a couple sales, start to validate your idea. You might have something, and then when things start to work, you want to make the decision. Well, where do I really want to land? Because once it scales to a certain point, or even starts really becoming successful, that idea of switching platforms is not a small lift. Even
Right.
either way you're going, right? Like, there is a online store, there is orders, there's a customer history, there's accounts, there's products, inventory, all this stuff that you'd have to go from one system to another. So it's a big lift going from one to the other. So you also want to be thinking longer term of, where do I want to be? What are the costs going to look like when I hit certain thresholds if I am on Shopify? And are those sustainable for me? Or is now the time to switch over to something with commerce, like you said, really optimize the
Mhm.
store to exactly how you want it. Find a really elegant, fairly inexpensive host, which there are many out there that specialize in WordPress and WooCommerce, and away you go, and your costs are going to be significantly less, especially as you scale up into to much more success and a lot more sales, right? But um, So totally agree with that. I do want to kind of I want to get a little more specific on some of your advice on some of these things. So we talked, we think about like leakiest bucket, right? When you go into a WooCommerce store, and I'd be curious, like, is there something like one thing that really drains revenue without owners even knowing it? Like, is there something that, maybe not every site you look at, but is there something that kind of stands out that's something you see that's very common that either hurts revenue, hurts sales or whatever. And it seems to be like a common pattern. A lot of people try and it just doesn't work the way they think it will. Does anything come to mind that stands out that people need to be aware of? What's Cody's
Oh
big tip
man,
here?
yeah. There's a few here. So
Hey, share
obviously
them
your
all.
website,
Whatever you got.
yeah, website host I think is one thing. So there's a specific. I mean, gosh, one trying to isolate that. So like
We can go a
obviously
couple
the
things. Hosts for sure. I
yeah,
mean, that's
right. A macro thing to bring up it would just be site speed. So I think the thing that online store owners are always chasing is better site speed.
hmm
And it's kind of a known thing that WooCommerce you can slow your website down pretty quick if you don't have the right partner and you slap in all these plugins and you have, a site builder that's loading a million inquiries with each page load, right? So um, you know, just having too many plugins on your website, obviously, less plugins you can utilize, the better. Kind of going back to what you're saying is like, it's no frills. Like having don't try to reinvent the wheel, having
hmm
simplified things. Another thing is your checkout experience. So obviously, going back to what we talked about, I think that the out of the box WooCommerce checkout flow is sometimes a little cumbersome for a lot of online buyers. So we sort of have a recommendation for a plugin here. We use um, Kestrel's plugin, Checkout WC, as a good tool that basically gives you a very similar Shopify UI that you can configure onto your website, and you can do a lot of customization there. And I believe in their new version they have A/B testing as well. So that's a really good tool. So I'd say site speed, checkout, and then I'd say as like a more of a it's not really like something super specific, but more of another macro thing is that relationship between your code and your host. So, for instance, I think a lot of people out there are just having conversations saying, oh, we need to go and get a faster server, or oh, we need to get over here and get onto AWS or get onto Google Cloud, or, spend a lot more for their hosting. And all of our hosting partners are probably kind of upset with us right now. But there is sort of a nuance and a understanding of the process and the time that it takes in order to get that sort of right harmony between your website and your host. So one thing that WooCommerce recently launched not too long ago is HPOS, which is the high performance order system. And we've seen some really good success in a lot of the sites we've been enabling that on to get really good wins across the board, especially with stores that are doing, say, a subscription store that does a bunch of orders every single day and does that automated. We got some really massive wins implementing that on some mature stores. And that's part of that process with that maturity we have with the software alongside the server. So I'm kind of pointing out these things, and it's maybe a little bit of a frustrating answer because aside from checkout WC, there just really isn't an easy win.
right.
Yeah, especially when you have these sort of things that happen on your site. I'd say for people that are spending money to get traffic on ads or SEO or whatever, there's definitely just making sure that your website is fully tuned to be fast and be able to be conversion ready, and understanding you have possibly some maybe versions set up. um, I'd say those are some of the things that
hmm
we see often, some of the things that we see that kind of affects our clients ability to be able to get the sales that they're looking for.
Yeah, great advice. Check out WC.com if you want to take a look at that. I firmly agree with the host recommendation because e-commerce has a special set of requirements on a
Mhm.
host because it's if you have a marketing site, a content site, caching is such an important part of it, right? And that's what helps make it blazing fast. And you don't have to go hit the database every time the page loads. Well, with e-commerce, there's some of that, right? But some of it can't be cached, right? It's like you're not
Right.
caching the checkout process because you're live interacting with the database, right? So it has to. And so that's where those special considerations come in to make sure you're working with a host that truly understands that, right? So if you're not working with one, I would say make sure it's a WordPress managed host, right? Make sure it's somebody that specializes specifically in WordPress. Not just saying you can host WordPress here, but they specialize it, right? And then talk to them about WooCommerce. Say, what do you do special for WooCommerce? Knowing there's certain considerations. If you start to have success and orders are flowing in, like you said, the last thing you want is your host to, cripple and fall over when people are trying to pay you money. That is absolutely, a e-commerce website owner's nightmare, right? Is like people want to pay and the site breaks. So
Right.
definitely that is almost one of the most important things. Make sure you're on the right host because almost nothing else will matter if you're not, right? So a lot of good recommendations out there, a lot of articles, but definitely manage WP, manage WordPress host, and then make sure they have familiarity with WooCommerce and they can actually speak intelligently about it. Because if they're just pulling out buzzwords and stuff, that should be a big red flag.
Yeah.
And if you,
Don't launch your website and then run a Super Bowl commercial and with the
yeah, what
entry
was
level
that?
Cloudflare account.
They spent like 70 million on AI.com and like 7 million on the commercial. And then it was like on a basic Cloudflare free plan or
Yeah. Yeah.
something.
It's like a $500 Cloudflare plan or something like
I
that.
would have
And
told them that for a lot cheaper than what they spent on, all in. So, but they got to
yeah,
talk with us, they got to
I
talk to us.
validated that. I was on the website when I saw the commercial ran, and I was like shocked the website just wouldn't load. It was like totally crashed. I'm like, you got to
It's
be kidding
awful.
me,
I
man.
mean, you're spend all that money for a rush of traffic and then you can't handle. I mean, that is a site owner's nightmare, right? You have a rush of traffic and you can't handle it. Whether you know it's coming, and if you know it's coming, that's really inexcusable. But when you don't know it's coming, is even more. Like something goes viral, some celebrity wears something you're selling, and boom, you got a thousand orders in overnight when you're sleeping. That's when you need to make sure your website's solid and the host is solid because you don't want to
Yep.
miss that opportunity because it may never come again. So I do want to go back
Yeah.
to a point you kind of touched on, but I want to dig in a little bit more, and especially as stores start to have some success, right? They start to grow. Many of the stores start on, like you said, they build it, they put them together themselves, they launch, validate the idea, whatever. They start to have some success. Where is the threshold of where a store should start looking for outside help? Either freelancers, agencies like ours, where is that? And I know it's not just a numbers thing of, well, why don't you make 10 grand a month? But like, of course, part of it is you got to have the budget for stuff like that. But like, where is that? When should shop owners start thinking, okay, I'm getting to the point where this is one beyond my skill set, but two, it's going really well, but I need somebody that knows how to kind of continue to grow it and make sure it's not going to fall over. Like, how do you help people understand that as you're kind of guiding them on this e-commerce journey?
Yeah. So I think, again, anybody who's starting a business and starting an online store, DIY is great. Start it out, get it as far as you can. It's good to at least get somebody who's a expert in the platform you're running on, just to get their ear. Just at least, my advice to you, if you're starting a store, book a consultation with a WooCommerce developer to be able to understand, just at least prepare yourself for what you're getting into and kind of understand the roadmap you're going down. Because what will happen is when you get to that revenue point where you can afford to hire a firm or a developer or whatever, you're gonna have to undo a lot of the things that you've done to get you to the point where you're at. So I think it's good just to get. I think at MotiFact we can. I'm always available for a free console. I'll talk to anybody who comes through our front door just to give them
We're gonna
some free
post
advice.
Cody's cell phone at the end here for everyone just to shoot him a
Yeah.
text.
Well. Uh.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
great advice because, like, we're the same, right? You walk in the door, we're going to have a conversation, right? And
Right.
then our big philosophy, and I know yours is the same because we talk about this. Like, if we're not a good fit, I would like to send you in a direction that I think could be a good fit, right? So,
Right.
doesn't mean I'm going to tell you go hire this company or go hire that person, but I'm usually going to. We have references and agencies, and Cody's one of them with MotiFact, where if it's just a project that's either not a good fit or we just can't hit their timeline or for whatever reason, but it looks like a good project, we send it to people that we trust and respect. I know if Cody, lands that project, he's going to take care of them. He's going to do a good job. And that's how I put my karma out in the world, right? I try to
Mhm.
share the leads that don't work for us with other people. And I know other people share leads with us. So it's also making sure, again, we have the conversation. What do you look for? And if you're not a right fit for us, no harm, no foul. Let me send you on to where I think you might be a right fit, and people that we do know and trust. And so again, in the WordPress community, in the WordPress world, that's how a lot of us work, right? Which is not
Right.
like outside WordPress. It's open source. We're friendly. We're friends. Even though we're competitors, Cody and I are competitors. People are like, why are you coming on the podcast with a competitor? Because we're friends and we share, we send people back and forth based on who's a better fit for who. So, we're all in this together and trying to help each other. But I think the idea of just getting some expert advice, because I'll give people advice. I'm sure you do too. Things to look for, things to stay away from. Oh, so and so said that. That's a huge red flag. Do not go
Right.
that direction, right? Like you can hear some of
Yeah.
that. Yes, it's free advice, but like we like to help people as much as we can. So yeah, talk to someone. And there are a lot of, whether it's an agency, whether it's a freelancer, there's a lot of like really, really solid WooCommerce developers out there because honestly, WooCommerce is not that far off from WordPress. It's built and it's supported in a very similar way. So, it's just a more complex plugin within for WordPress.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see. We're going. If anyone's got questions in the chat during this is live stream, of course, if you're watching it later, good luck. Put them in the comment. But if you have questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to them here in just a minute. One thing I want to show a little bit about shared hosting for the win, Adam. I mean, it's kind of what they did with AI.com, right? So how'd that work out?
I
But it
think
was only
you,
$20 a month.
I don't know if we're going to come back to that question about the salary framing. I
Yeah.
think that's
Why don't we put in on that and then I'll go on to the next one.
sure. So, yeah, I just wanted to share on that because I think that's perfect framing, Brad, as far
Yeah.
as somebody who's looking at hiring a developer in-house. So I see that all the time. A lot of companies will, just think, hey, I want somebody I could see over here in the bullpen. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, that's probably a rare case these days, but just having somebody they can have a direct line to have one throat to choke so that they can make sure all of their stuff is done on their website. Well, you kind of think about that salary requirement, maybe somebody who needs, yeah, what is it, 70, 85K. Can we make a living on that amount anymore? I don't know. It keeps going up. But anyhow, you think about a company spending anywhere sub $100,000 a year. You could find a generalist web developer to bring onto your team that may sort of know WordPress, that might sort of know web development, and they're learning and they're jack of all trades. Or you can hire a firm that will be a really great fit that has a team of experts. And you can use that investment to be able to, use different skill sets, whether that's part of that's front end, part of that's back end, part of that's database optimization, part of that's just having an overall hosting environment know-how. You can really get a good investment level hiring an agency. Of course, I'm an agency owner, so I'm going to say that, but we tend to see that so often. And I also tend to see a lot of companies that come to us for help that have that generalist web developer that have a laundry list of issues and things that they're just, that are way outside of their depth. So
I
something to
mean,
think
I
about
love
when you're
that
getting there.
because I mean that's a point that of course I'm sure you use in sales calls just like I do, but it's a very fair point, right? Like one individual's salary, just call it 100 grand, whatever that is a great salary for that person, and they probably maybe they are an amazing fit and they do know stuff, but it is also one person, right? So there's also one single point of failure, sick days, PTO, things like
There you
that,
go.
right? Versus again spending a similar amount, not having that commitment of a employee and having Cody's team, my team, a team of experts, data specialists, UI, UX, SEO, whatever, to come in and help you out with a lot of redundancy. So I think it's a great point. I'm glad you made it because I think it's just again, store owners sit down and see where you're at and see what makes sense. Maybe that full hire does make sense based on what you're doing, but it's always good to kind of think about other options. And again, maybe it's just try it. Hire Cody, hire Mode Effect for a month or two. Are you seeing results? Is it there? If not, all right, go somewhere else. So you're not stuck with a hire that's not producing results, right? But I have no doubt Cody and his team will produce results because when either one of us get our foot in the door, we're only going to do amazing things and help our clients. So great advice. I want to round it out here a little bit with we talked about modernization, we talked about stay away from shiny things, smart growth. I want to show off a little bit about what we've been doing with ThemeSwitcher around WooCommerce and specifically around how this can actually help versus, hey, I'm on an old store, I'm on an old site. We want to modernize. We love WooCommerce, but we want to redesign, we want to rebuild, we want to redo the whole thing, right? Well, that's that big. Oh gosh, this is going to be a big project, big commitment, big financial commitment. Everyone, a lot of time. It's just it's risky to the business. What happens if something goes wrong? There is still a world where that makes sense. Don't get me wrong, and there's a world where that should make sense for a lot of companies. But it's not the only way we can accomplish this now. So I'm going to show this off, and I'm going to blow Cody's mind. No, he's seen this.
Yeah, I'm excited, man, because we need something like this on the ModeFX site.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get it on there. All right, so live local demo, baby. These are always fun. Please work now. It'll work. So really simple, basic example. This is a default WordPress install, 6.9, maybe point 0.1. I don't know if I installed the point release yet, but either way, it's 6.9. It's running 2025, which is currently the default theme. You can see we click around here, everything's 2025. I even have WooCommerce running. This is again a default
There
WooCommerce.
you go.
Little side tip too, if you install WooCommerce, the plugin, it comes with a sample data file in the plugin that you can import a bunch of fake data like I did here. So if you want to test it out, it's right in the plugin. Just grab that file and import it in WordPress, and away you go. So really easy way to kind of test some things. But this is a store, fully functional store. I don't have checkout payment integration here. This is just local, but everything else works. Add to cart, whatever. So this is where the power of what we built comes in. So we built a plugin called ThemeSwitcher, and it allows you to switch the theme on one page at a time, one section at a time, based on category, based on custom post type, based on whatever you want. So, but the real power here for WooCommerce is we have an integration. So as we know, WooCommerce, there's a products custom post type. There's a number of pages WooCommerce makes. You could manually switch all of those with ThemeSwitcher, but we know what WooPowers commerce. So we've actually baked that in to ThemeSwitcher. So it will recognize any theme. You can't see me clicking the drop down here, but if I click it, any theme in my theme directory is in this drop down. I'm going to go with Storefront, which is Automatic's official WooCommerce theme. I'll just save that, and then when I switch it back to my live website, guess what? It's still 2025 because I didn't change the live website. I changed the shop. But when I go to the store, boom, now we're running Storefront. So everything in
There you go.
WooCommerce is running Storefront. Product details, add to cart, the cart, everything. My account, it's all running Storefront. But if I go anywhere else on my website that is not WooCommerce, about page, I'm right back to 2025. Homepage, I'm right back to 2025. So, pretty extreme example of just switching the whole thing over, but you could also just switch your shop main page. You could switch just your product detail page. You could build out using a new theme, a new product detail page, and swap it. Now imagine like the homepage. You could just make homepage 2 that runs on a block theme. Build out the whole homepage. And you know what you have to do to launch that? Just go to your reading settings and change homepage to homepage 2 and hit save, and you've just relaunched your homepage on a block theme. So this is a real game changer in terms of modernization, iteratization, but doing it iteratively, right? Chipping away at
Yeah.
it again. And this is a tool for us. This is a tool for Cody. This is a tool for agencies, implementers, and store owners. So even if you're not technical, you could install this and start, using Storefront or using a block-based theme on maybe a theme that is using old classic editor, and really change the game in a matter of minutes
There you
versus
go.
months of rebuilding your whole theme. So,
I
what
have
do
a
you think, Cody?
real question for you. So we talked about in the instance of WooCommerce sites where they use these builder themes or
Mhm.
these no code themes. So what about somebody who has a website that comes on to, that wants to sort of do this slow build out? Like if we're working with a client, we're like, hey, you really need to get on to using Gutenberg because it's going to help your website speed. So will this be compatible with people who use like say Beaver Builder or
It is compatible with
Divi
Beaver
or
Builder. So it's compatible with Beaver Builder, Divi. There's a couple of page builders. We have a compatibility section on themeswitcher.com. And you can check it there to see if it's listed. If it's not listed and it's popular, it's probably in the works. But I know for sure Beaver Builder and Divi are both fully supported and tested. Because again, your point, if their whole shop is running Beaver Builder, you could selectively start replacing out those templates with Storefront or a block-based theme or anything outside of Beaver Builder. So we know that's a big market for this because exactly what you said, performance, right?
right.
Or you could go the other way. You could start using Beaver Builder on certain pages if you really wanted to. So it's super flexible. Really, if the theme follows WordPress standards, it works, right? Page builders, you had to put a little bit of extra testing in there and extra considerations because they're doing a lot more. But generally speaking, if a theme is a block theme, a new theme, whatever, and it follows the WordPress standards, it works with ThemeSwitcher. So of course, always test, but we've had a lot of success. We're using this to, we are landing more projects with this process. We are bringing, it's giving us another option to bring to the table, right? When someone says, hey, we want to redo our WooCommerce, okay, we have a couple options here. We could go traditional route, and for some projects, that's perfect, and that's exactly what they want. Or we could go the new route with ThemeSwitcher Pro, and we could have results in a matter of a week, 2 weeks. You could start seeing results. So pretty cool. I wanted to throw it out because I do think with the larger topic of modernization, don't just flip it all upside down. There's a lot of options out there now, right? So whether it's ThemeSwitcher Pro, whether it's just modifying or working with a pro like Cody that knows, hey, you shouldn't have 15 plugins running on your checkout page. You shouldn't have all these things that are flashing when I'm trying to click the pay button. The only thing that should be in my mind is clicking that pay button, right? So bring in the experts. Help, just let him audit your site. He's going to come back with recommendations that are going to make you money. And that's what I love about e-commerce, because it's so, like, websites are all based on traffic and sometimes ads and things like that. But e-commerce, it's very black and white if it's working. Are you making sales or not? Right. So for me, it's just, I'm a data guy. It's zeros and ones. It's either working or it's not. So it's always, you can analyze it, and with a few tweaks, you can start making more money and easily justify hiring an agency like ours. So, yeah, any final thoughts? I have one final segment I want to do, but Cody, I'll leave it to you for final thoughts before we get into that.
Yeah, I mean, just, I think it's, again, just, getting back to just knowing your basics here and figuring out, I think there's a lot of SMBs running on WooCommerce. So you really want to educate yourself. And I can't stress enough, having an agency that understands WooCommerce in your back pocket, even just to get some education. I think it's a good investment, even if there's, just a free consultation or just making a small investment with them. This is where we're going to flash the donation screen up on the YouTube. So, make a small donation.
Smash that subscribe.
Yeah,
no, that's
so I just say that's key.
Yeah, it's good advice for sure. Talk to people, and honestly, I think a lot of us like helping because it is the open source mentality. It's helping. We all help each other. We all grow, right? And so, really, just in the open source world, that's a lot. That's our mindset, because that's how we've been building for years, and in our case, decades, right? So, yeah, great advice. I want to end on a final little fun segment here. Cody has no idea what I'm about to do, which is even more fun. So, we're going to call this segment the Cart Recovery Rapid Fire segment. So this is real simple. I'm going to throw a quick question over to Cody. Cody, you got 5 seconds to give me your answer, and then we're going right to the next one. I'm just going to rapid fire you some big old e-commerce questions, and I want to see what you come up with.
This could be
Maybe they're not big old questions, but it'll be fun, okay? How do you feel about this? I don't have sound effects. That's the only thing I'm a little sad about. I need, like, ticking and a ding or a buzzer, but
yeah, you need a soundboard.
Maybe for the next one, we'll bring back the Dreadcast or something. But all right, here we go. The Cart Recovery Rapid Fire segment starts now. All right, Shopify versus WooCommerce. Who wins for a brand doing 10 million plus?
I'd say WooCommerce.
WooCommerce. All right, free shipping banner, mandatory or lame?
Pretty lame.
Pretty lame. All right, page builders, Elementor, Beaver Builder, or pure Gutenberg blocks?
Gutenberg blocks.
Ooh, I like it. All right, spin to win discount wheel, fun gamification, or immediately close tab?
Depends on your audience.
Oh, I like it. Depends what you're giving away, maybe. All right, a client has $500 left in their monthly budget. Are they buying a plugin or 1 hour of your developer's time?
1 hour of the developer's time.
That's an agency owner. I knew it.
Yep.
All right.
I'm not a plugin. I do have a plugin company. But
besides WooCommerce, what is one must-have plugin that every single store needs?
Oh gosh, now this is a hard one, dude. Check out WC.
Check out WC. That's an easy answer. All right, AI generated. We're almost there. We're almost there. AI generated product descriptions. Time saver or soul crusher?
Both.
I don't disagree. You need some description in there, right? All right. What's scarier? Last one, the nightmare scenario. What's scarier? 500 server error during Black Friday sale, or a client with just one quick idea for the checkout page?
Definitely the 500, because I think we could tell our clients to settle down as far as the last minute customizations.
Anything happen on a Black Friday sale that is not people buying is probably the worst case scenario, right? So,
yep.
All right, pretty good. That was painless, right? A little rapid fire. That was kind of fun. I do wish I had
My
sound
heart.
effects, but
I checked my heart rate on my Apple Watch. Let's see.
did it spike? You're in a loud, nervous environment. Now this was a lot of fun, Cody. I really
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on. We had a really great conversation around WooCommerce and everything that we're doing around modernization. As I pull up my slide here and kind of ramble, but real quick, I want to give you an opportunity to just tell people how they can find you online. How do they reach out and find Cody and work with ModeEffect?
yeah. Modeeffect.com. You can find us there. And then if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn's probably the best place. Just search up my name, link on LinkedIn, Cody Landefeld. And then if you dare, on X, you could find me at Cody L. But there's not a whole lot of business advice I'm giving out on there. More so on LinkedIn. So find me on there, and look forward to connecting with anybody.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely track Cody down on LinkedIn. And I'm Brad Williams, WebDevStudios.com. Williams BA pretty much everywhere. If it's not, just add a one or two ones until you find me. But yeah, Williams BA, you'll find me. So definitely reach out. We're very approachable. We love just sharing advice. And Cody, really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a lot of
Thank
fun.
you,
Shared a lot
sir.
of great
Yeah,
advice. If
absolutely.
anyone's out in the Phoenix area, or just look up modeeffect.com and reach out to Cody and his team there. They're killing it. And like you said, they don't just do WooCommerce, they're an e-commerce agency. So if you're selling
Yeah,
stuff online, go talk to Cody and his team. They'll take care of you. So
absolutely.
with
And go
that,
D-backs.
Phillies, it's baseball season, even though it's like -10 out right now, but I am so ready for warm weather and baseball. So
Yeah, so that's
let's
one way
go
we're like not on the same page there, Brad. You said we're friendly, and then until it comes down to our baseball
until
teams.
baseball. Baseball I'm more passionate about because my Raiders just haven't even played football in 20 years. So uh, I'll be once the Raiders actually get good, you won't want to be around me, but I hope it's coming. But we'll end it there. So thank you for tuning in. And again, we got the replay up on YouTube. So until next time, I think we have another fun one next month. So watch out. We will announce it as soon as we have it scheduled. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.